continuing with our episode of Parents with Different Strokes, and I'm very excited to welcome a very special guest. Thank you, Priyanka. You've been the creator of this show. You've managed to put all of us together for season 2. How does it feel to be a guest in your own show?
Thank you for having me. It took a lot of convincing to come here. I think 9 months has been a very, very good journey for all of us, you included. The motivation to create the show is you. And the fact that a lot of women out there needed to know so many things about motherhood, the first season. Season 2, of course, is more about parenting. It involves mothers, fathers, families, and so much more.
And your journey into motherhood has also been, full of joy, but a lot of strife also, So you're talking to us in this episode about being a single mother. And I'm sure it's been a very, very difficult journey for you also. And I'm very proud of you, You're at the top of your game right now. You're so successful in your career, but you have also had a difficult road behind you. So share a little bit about that.
Thank you for praising me. Yes, it's been a very, very long, tiring journey. It's not been easy. But at the same time, I think the one good thing that came out of my marriage which didn't work out was my son. And of course, the fact that children are resilient. They're very resilient. We don't think that way. But when you uncouple, when you separate, I think it's very important to resolve your own emotions first.
Yeah.
Most of us don't do that. It's important to first understand that and accept the fact that something has not worked out, any relationship.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the fact that there is a child with you. The child's life is constantly changing, right? Their life is changing, evolving from toddlers to teenage and everything.
Yeah.
So their world is going to undergo changes. They're going to adapt to it very, very fast, sooner than even we know it. The thing is that we, most parents, single mothers or single dads, when we uncouple, we kind of bring in that negativity into when we're doing child rearing. So which means that if you're unhappy with your spouse or I'm not going to use the word hate because it's an extreme emotion, but when you dislike your partner or your spouse or your ex-spouse or whatever, that should not translate to how you bring up your child. Right?
Exactly.
A child needs the mother and the father. There is no reason why you should stop the child from meeting the other parent.
Yeah.
The fact that something didn't work out between two adults should not be imposed on the child. I think that is key, and I don't see it happening these days. There are so many people we see in our own circle.
Right.
Parents are deprived of parenting, and I think that's really unfair.
So tell us about, when you were separating, you wanted to ensure that your child is protected. And I think that's every parent's concern, that the child should not become the victim of an adult's relationship and their decision. So how did you go about, naturally also instinctively protecting your child?
There are no lessons, sadly. There are no books written in this regard. There is just your own experience which you learn from, or whatever your family and friends tell you. I had a very supportive family, and without my parents and my brother, I wouldn't have been able to do this. The thing is that, I think when we uncouple, we have to make sure that we resolve our own emotions first. I don't see many of us doing that. We need to get over the fact that something has not worked out, a relationship or a marriage or whatever. And that negativity that you have towards your partner has to be kept separate. It cannot come in the way of child rearing. You cannot deprive the other parent of parenting.
Exactly.
Right? Children need both parents. It's okay if two adults cannot make something work, but the child should not be the victim. So I think keeping the child's interests in mind is very important, that a father and a mother, and of course, they have to be willing, right? There are times when people separate and one spouse is unwilling to be the parent. So if there is a willing parent, then I don't see any reason why you should deprive a child from meeting his or her father or mother, because they are, the man is the biological father.
Yeah.
So I made sure my son meet his father regularly. Even when he said no, he didn't want to go, I'd insist. The other thing is that I don't think you should even criticize your partner, because this is something that you undergo, right? Your experiences are your own. I don't think your beliefs should be enforced upon. And in time they learn. Children, they evolve, like I said, they're resilient. Their world is undergoing so many changes. They go to school, they meet friends. There are other children of, other single parents.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of adapt very, very well. I think it's we as adults who don't adapt that well.
That's an interesting point. An immediate need or concern of every parent is to protect their child. So I love the fact that you're saying that children are resilient, because if I had also undergone what you underwent, my first instinct would have been that my child should not suffer in any way. And I think any person who's a single parent, for whatever reason, their first priority will be that I will safeguard the mental and physical health of my child. So I think this is very inspiring to hear that you did that, and you're telling us that children are actually much more resilient than we give them credit for.
I see women and men alike depriving each other of parenting.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really sad, because you're in a way teaching your child to hate somebody who he's supposed to be so close to. It's not fair to the child at all.
What have you seen around you, in terms of other single parents? Is it very difficult? Does our country make it very difficult for single parents?
Yes, I think our conditioning contributes a lot to that. I think the first thing is to empty our cup, right? We've been brought up to think in a certain manner, and our surroundings are like that. We may be very advanced, but I think we still have a long way to go. The fact that we bring up our boys and girls differently, I think we need to change that. I think they deserve equal treatment. The fact that boys are told that, you have to be strong, you can't cry, that's not fair.
Absolutely.
You let the boys, let them be vulnerable. They have to be vulnerable. They have to be able to express themselves. And I think we need to make men, boys, the kind of children we're rearing, what they're going to turn out to be tomorrow is the world we're going to be living in, right? So
exactly.
I think it's a huge responsibility to set exemplary behavior as a parent. There has to be integrity of character, because children are imbibing it consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah.
If you as a parent are, if you're rude, or if you say abuse someone, and the child will think this is acceptable, or if you are going to accept, if you are going to accept inappropriate behavior, it's going to become a way of life for the person who's watching you.
Right.
And children get influenced by parents, and mothers, of course, big time. So I think the deal is that you let them be vulnerable without emasculating them.
Yeah.
You let girls and boys know that they're not destined to sort of be unfair to each other, right?
Yeah.
Girls should not know that, okay, boys, they're going to do this because this is the way they are.
So we should remove like gender stereotypes from boys and girls, that we're telling our girls on one hand that you must learn to assert yourself, that you can be whatever you want to be, but we must also tell that to our boys, right? We teach them, like you said, not to be vulnerable. We make them feel, we diminish them if they cry, if they want to wear pink. So many gender descriptions are given to boys and girls at such a young age. So I think that's something that definitely has to be removed.
I've had so many people telling boys, saying boys don't cry. Why don't they cry?
Of course they should.
Cry.
Absolutely.
They should. It's not just us who are crying. I was recently reading a post in New York Times, and it said that most of the shooting incidents that have happened in schools have been boys, men. So the first thing that comes to your mind is that there is an outlet that they need, and they don't know where to go. They don't know whom to talk to when something is bothering them. I think we need to open that up. We as a society have a long way to go the way we're bringing up our children, which is one of the reasons where I decided that it is important that my son goes to boarding school, he makes friends there. Of course, I couldn't give him siblings because we were not together. But the fact that, they need to make friends, they need to be able to talk to people, they need to express themselves. If they have a problem, they should be able to come up to you and to anyone else and say, without being judged, and say that I'm having this problem, I need help to resolve this.
Exactly.
We don't teach them to express at all. While we tell our girls to be safe, we tell them it's okay to cry, but we don't do the same with our boys. And I think, which is very scary, it's a very scary experience that, and that article also said that the boys in America are really broken. We wouldn't want that, right? I think so. I'm not sure how many people would think like that, but I would really urge everybody to do their bit in making this happen.
Absolutely. And I think, I know it's very brave of you to come on the show and talk about your personal life. When I had to do that, I know it took a lot out of me to speak about, a trauma that we've undergone in our past, and to come up on a public platform. I know it's taken you a lot of strength, so I appreciate that. But this strength, how does it translate to your day-to-day life, and what message would you give to other single mothers, Because women are now choosing to be single either by choice, whether they're doing artificial insemination and then having their own babies without any partner, whether they're getting separated or divorced. We have so many single women. I think this is the largest number of single women we've seen in our country for the first time, right, in its entire history. So And the problem is we don't allow women to speak out. So all the single mothers that we called on the show were reluctant to come out and speak. And I say that if we don't stop the silence, then how are we going to stop all these gender stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
When you're sitting here and a single mother is watching you, she'll get inspired. And hopefully other single mothers will also speak out.
Thank
You know, I'm really glad you're coming and sharing your journey. So what would you tell other single mothers? Is it really tough? Tell us about some special moments that have made this entire journey completely worth it, when your son and you know, shared these special bonds and moments, and you were by yourselves and it felt very precious.
We're more like friends than, than me being a mother to him. And I trust his judgment. I think with whatever he's gone through in life, he's matured more than I could have ever thought he would. And the fact that, I'm not a helicopter parent.
That's good. We need less helicopter parents, actually.
And I think the deal is that, I take this from my parents. My parents always told me the pros and cons of a situation.
Yeah.
And they let me decide. And they said, whatever you want to do, we're going to be behind you. We're supporting you.
Okay.
So even when I decided to separate legally, my father said one thing, he said, if you made a mistake, doesn't mean you need to live it for the rest of your life. And I think this is something that we need to tell everyone. Of course, you give it your best shot. If it doesn't work, then there's no other option. And it's not an easy road at all. It is very, very tough to do this. Being a single woman, being a single parent, working in the media. Okay, media is a little more sort of evolved, or, it's a different environment. But one has to be really careful. One has to make sure that whatever you're doing and the way it translates into your personal life is followed by the child. So yes, I think the first thing is that do not force your own beliefs and conditioning on the child. Let them learn from their mistakes. It's important. I learned today. I mean, I'm still learning. It's not easy to do this. It's not easy to bring up a child on your own without child support. I knew I had to do everything by myself. So I think that kind of, there's another thing to it, that you need to find your devotion. It frees you up, right?
That's true.
I kind of devoted myself to work. There was nothing else that I was doing but working crazy hours. So that kind of in some way helped me resolve my feelings. And the fact is that children are meant to make mistakes. They're meant to learn from our mistakes and their own. So, when you say, don't do this, this is going to happen, or don't go here, something will happen, I think you're inducing fear. We need to teach our children to become fearless, to take decisions and to stand by those. It's okay if you chose wrong. You can always make amends. It's not late. If not that, then take another path. But one has to do what one believes in, what will keep you going, what makes you happy. An unhappy parent will not make a happy child. So there's no point in doing something which is not going to contribute to the child's future in any which way.
And has there been any moment when your son has, this is a personal question, when your son has turned around and told you that I actually did not miss having an active father in my life?
Oh yes. When I decided to move out and uncouple, my son got into this whole guilt mode, and he started saying that he was
blaming himself.
Yes. No, he said, I must be the most unlucky boy because I come from a broken home. And that stung, that hit home real bad. The fact that a child was saying that, I come from a broken home now, and that, that kind of made me realize that I must make sure that he meets his father, he meets his extended family, and he spends equal amount of time with both sides. That was very important to contribute to his emotional health. So in that sense, his holidays were split, and he spent enough time there. His father sadly passed away last year, and much later after we divorced. But so there's been another issue that we've been dealing with even now. The fact that, he had a father who was maybe not very active in his life, but he would make sure he would meet his father. But a father is a father.
Of course,
Yes. And so I think what happens is that, we need to make sure that our children, when they undergo certain situations, they're not broken. They're not left broken in life.
And for that, you have to also gather all your strength and be strong and not broken, right?
Yeah.
How have people reacted to you, Priyanka? Like, people like your neighbors, buildings you've lived in, colleagues, friends. I'm sure there's a wide variety and mixture of reactions, but have you felt at any time judgment coming your way, and how have you dealt with it? Because this is something that, again, a lot of single, particularly mothers, will face. And they need to know your story to understand how they can deal with it as well.
I've seen a lot of people not separating and saying that they want to stay together because of their children's sake.
Yeah,
but they're
unhappy
unhappy
marriages.
and they're quarreling all the time. And the fact is that that is not going to have a positive impact on your child or children, girl or boy, either ways. Thankfully, I've always had a very, very private personal life. And I like it that way. So not many people knew. Very few people in my office knew then that, I was separating and everything. But everyone was very supportive, extremely supportive through the years. The fact that, I sent him to boarding school, and every time if something went wrong, I had to rush. I won't say people were sympathetic because I don't like sympathy, but I think the fact that people were more practical and understanding, I think that contributed a lot. But I'm lucky in that sense. I'm blessed. Very thankful that something like this happened, and it kind of took off on a more smoother note than it would for most people. I'm not sure how people fare in smaller towns. It's very tough for small town people to accept divorces, and therefore I don't even like using the word divorce. I'm okay to use the word uncouple. So I surround myself with very positive people. It's very important to keep an important close set of friends with you, who are there with you, who help you sort of tide through tough times. Anything that really matters. Having strong family support really helps. It's such a big stigma even in today's day and age. And we don't expect it to happen, right? When I got married, it was a dream. I never expected it to fall apart. So we all make sure that we work really hard to make it work. But then if it doesn't work, then you have to find a way around it rather than not accepting it. And I think you take a decision only for the right reasons. You don't take a decision for the wrong reasons, because then that doesn't work.
Yeah, but I have to just quickly step in and say, I don't know, we should never define ourselves with stigmas and any preconceived notions, because we are much more than boxes and definitions. In our society also, we should just let people be who they want to be and judge them by their actions and their good deeds rather than their past. So everybody makes mistakes, and some failures are hidden, some are not. So we can't judge people for public failures. That's the biggest disservice we're doing.
Yes, I think that's a very important point you've raised, that none of us should be judged in that sense. And the fact that we're here because of our hard work, and we're here because we want it to be that way, because we chose it. Sometimes situations are inflicted upon you, sometimes you accept them, sometimes you find the best way around them. The fact is that we were not together did not bother me after a point in time. But yes, what did bother me was the fact that my child was sort of growing up without a father. That impacted me. But I see a lot of people don't get impacted by that. And I think, coming back to the point that you made, it's very important for all of us, men and women alike, to understand and value ourselves more. We don't do that. We look for external validation a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to start understanding our own self-worth. It's very important.
So any nasty moments in this entire journey, anytime when you had to put somebody in their place and say, you know what, I've had enough, no more, stop interfering in my life, stop passing judgments,
Yeah, sometimes it happens. It comes from the most evolved people as well, the most well-educated people as well. People you wouldn't even expect to sort of come up with something like that, but they do. And you just have to deal with it. Because, see, the thing is that the moment you decide that this is not working out and you have to look after your child and you have to do it by yourself.
That's your priority.
Yes, so you've chosen that path, right? Then you have to follow it through. There is no way that you deviate or you become unstable or whatever. You have to set the right example for your child. And somehow you have to resolve your differences and make sure both parents, work in the best interest of the child. And you show, like I said, exemplary behavior. So if a man is seen like a hardworking person, a masculine role model there, the child will obviously feel protected. The child will know that if there is something that is bothering him or her, he can go up to the father and talk. And similarly for the mother, we are more looked upon as softer creatures and holding our boys close to our hearts, or even our girls. So that was one of the reasons why I decided that I don't want to bring up a child who's going to be clingy with his mother, because I didn't want to get into this whole reasoning that, I sacrificed my life for you, so now I'm old and you've got to look after me. Majority of our country thinks like that.
They do.
So I was very clear that I didn't want that.
And for that you need financial independence, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which a lot of women also, I think we're learning slowly the importance of financial independence.
It is.
It allows you to walk out of abusive marriages, unhappy marriages. It allows you to give your children so much. And I think that parents, when they're raising their girls, instead of teaching them and so many unnecessary things, or wasting money on toys and things that they won't really use for the long term, should educate their girls and boys on how to be financially independent, because that's what will really get them very far in life.
Also, I think, like I said, the children we raise today are the future of society, of our country.
Yeah.
These are the people we have to live with, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be put into an old age home tomorrow. so
Yeah.
so you have to make sure that you are independent, you're financially stable, you can take care of yourself, and you don't become a burden on your child tomorrow, and therefore you don't kind of make them feel responsible for you. And I think the fact that they need to respect elders, that's very important, and that is something that we need to make sure that we teach our children, boys or girls.
That's a very, very good lesson in there, Priyanka. Thank you so much for joining us. I think you've articulated so many truths, and I'm so proud of you for being brave enough and courageous enough for speaking up. I know it's not been easy, the entire journey, even sitting here today. So thank you. I'm sure all the mothers who are listening to you are very proud. They're very inspired. And may you continue shining like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There you have it. There is no right way or wrong way. There's only your way. So trust your way. Thanks for watching.